Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Simpleplanes. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I recently visited the Fleet Air Arm Museum down at Royal Naval Air Station, Yeovilton. They've got a fantastic collection of planes, and it has inspired me to make this video about planes that served in the Fleet Air Arm, recreated in Simpleplanes. So let's get started. So, first up we have this aircraft, which is the British Blackburn Buccaneer. It served with the Fleet Air Arm from 1962 until 1978, and we have this model made in-game by the user PlaneguyIII. The Blackburn Buccaneer was an attack aircraft, so it did carry a multitude of rockets, bombs and missiles, and also carried small tactical nuclear missiles at times. Obviously those were never used, but anyway, this is a fantastic model recreated in game, and I'm going to show you its little secret surprise it has. Right, so obviously it's a carrier-based aircraft, and we've got it here on the USS Tiny. And what I like about this plane is it has this feature, which are the folding wings, which obviously the Blackburn Buccaneer had in real life, to help the aircraft fit in the tight spaces below deck on the aircraft. Now let's see. Yep, it can take off from the USS Tiny, which is good. Helps for a naval fleet aircraft, and yeah, it handles wonderfully. Very manoeuvrable, very fast, and a wonderful aircraft. Yes, they've got this aircraft on display at the Fleet Air Arm at their the carrier experience, which does simulate what it's like to land on a British naval aircraft carrier, and has guided tours around all the different parts of the island, which is the main sort of control tower, as well as the flight deck, where there are a variety of aircraft on the flight deck, and has a simulation of a Blackburn Buccaneer landing, which is it's a wonderful sort of experience, wonderful thing to go through. It's a great part of the museum. Anyway, so yeah, this is the Blackburn Buccaneer by PlaneguyIII. Okay, next up we have the de Haviland Sea Vixen, which served in the Fleet Air Arm from 1959 until 1972, and was a supersonic, twin-engined, twin-boom fighter bomber. As you can see, it's got a wide variety of air-to-air missiles. It's got ground attack rockets and bombs, and similar to the Blackburn Buccaneer, could also carry tactical nuclear weapons. So let's see if this aircraft can take off from our in-game aircraft carrier. I'll have to go a bit faster than that. Come on, come on. Nope. Okay. That didn't work. We'll have to take it somewhere else. Let's take it to Jaeger instead. Right, so that didn't go quite as well as I'd hoped, but anyway, it is a great model, made by Maverickvii. Yeah, this had a very little chance of ever taking off from an aircraft carrier in the game. Otherwise, it is a wonderful model. Let's have a look what it has in terms of... Oh, it doesn't actually have actual in-game weapons. These are purely decorative, these things. But yeah, it did carry a multitude of weapons in its service with the Fleet Air Arm, and they have one of these on the carrier experience at the Fleet Air Arm. As you see, it's a two-seater aircraft. Absolutely wonderful to look at. Brilliant in-game model, so thank you very much, Maverickvii, for bringing this plane to life in Simpleplanes. Okay, next up, as you'll know from its distinctive gull wing configuration, is the F4U Corsair, which is probably most well known as an American naval aircraft famous for its service in the World War II Pacific campaign, but it did also serve with the Fleet Air Arm. In fact, when it was first made, it did have a little bit of trouble being adapted for carrier service, but it was in fact the Fleet Air Arm in the hands of the British that actually perfected its use on aircraft carriers. So we're going to see if this in-game model made for us by LZP599, all of the I will have links to all the creators in the description. Let's see if it can. Yep, it can take off. Just. Yep, it can just can just take off on the USS Tiny there. So anyway, yes, American-built aircraft. It's one of the very few American aircraft with the gull wing configuration, but had a very distinguished service in the Pacific, fighting against the Japanese fleet and air force. It's about on a par with the Japanese Zero. Lots of stories of duels between these two aircraft, and bit wobbly. I think this in-game model is not the easiest to fly, but it does have those 6 Browning 50 cal machine guns, as it carried in real life. Did I shoot? I think I may have shot something down there. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, not the easiest thing to fly, but otherwise it's a wonderful, very faithful recreation of the F4U Corsair. So thank you very much to LZP599. Okay, next up we've got a bit of a weird entry on our list. This is obviously this isn't a fighter aircraft. Obviously this didn't engage in direct combat. It was an anti-submarine and airborne early warning system aircraft, and it was called the Fairey Gannet. Now, as you can see, it does have that contra-rotating twin turboprop configuration seen on several Fleet Air Arm aircraft, such as the Westland Wyvern, which we'll get onto later. So let's see if this strange and slightly chunky looking aircraft can take off from the USS Tiny. Now, contra-rotating props, obviously it can make a lot of power, gets a lot of power out of that engine, and yep, it's achieved it. It's made takeoff. And when I first saw this, when I was at the Fleet Air Arm, I saw this aircraft. I thought, that looks some sort of like I literally had no idea what this plane could possibly be used for, apart from possibly reconnaissance, maybe sort of communication between different aircraft, different fleets, maybe a courier aircraft. But no, this is apparently an anti-submarine warfare ship, so it had a lot of high-tech gadgetry on board, lots of possible sonar stuff to detect enemy subs, as well as airborne early warning system. And just having a look at my notes here. Oh, apparently it in Fleet Air Arm service. It replaced a Douglas Sky Raider in the anti-submarine role. So that's an interesting little tidbit of information for you there. It actually replaced replaced an American aircraft in British service. So there you go. The Fairey Gannet The Fairey Gannet remade for us here by TAPlanes. So thank you very much for this wonderful model. Okay, next up we have an absolutely wonderful recreation of the Hawker Sea Fury by CobalT. This model looks absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, the Hawker Sea Fury served with the Fleet Air Arm from 1945, right at the end of the war, until 1953, so it did see action with the British in the Korean War, where the Hawker Sea Fury became one of the few propeller-driven aircraft to shoot down a jet-engined aircraft, which was a MiG-15 flown by a Chinese pilot. So it has that accolade, that sort of rare trophy that very few people have. And it was a powerful aircraft. It had an absolutely massive radial engine, which was the Bristol Centaurus, delivering 2,480 horsepower. So this thing was a mighty propeller-driven aircraft. So let's see how it does in game, taken off from the USS Tiny. And yep, absolutely easy takeoff there. Wonderful short runway. And as you can see, it's got rockets, which, as it carried in real life, also could carry an array of bombs as well. As well as its the wings, it's got 4 20mm Hispano Mark 5s, which were, you know, the standard for British aircraft at the time, propeller-driven and jet powered. Oh, something went wrong with the rockets there. Sorry about that. Let's just restart. And yeah, really don't know what happened now. I just press the button to fire a missile. Let's try that again. That's better. That's how to fire missiles without blowing yourself up in the process. I don't do blooper reels. If I did, that'd be in it. Nah, this is making it to the final cut. That was silly and that was hilarious. Anyway, yeah, had rockets, served in a fleet air arm, and it was the last propeller-driven fighter to serve with the fleet air arm, because obviously it was, you know, it entered service in 1945. The jet age was already in full swing by then, so last of a dying breed. But there you go, the Hawker Sea Fury by CobalT. Thank you very much, you did a great job. Okay, we've got an absolute oddity for you here as the penultimate aircraft in my video. This is the Westland Wyvern, which was a carrier-based multi-role strike aircraft that served with the Fleet Air Arm from 1953 to 1958. As with most strike aircraft and attack aircraft, it had the four 20mm Hispano cannons. It also carried an array of rockets and bombs, and also torpedoes. As you see, this one's got a torpedo under here, and rockets slung under the wings. And it also had, similar to the Fairey Gannet earlier, contra-rotating prop engines. As you see there, giving it some serious power, and seriously helping with its maneuverability as well. So let's see if it can take off in-game. This model brought to us by the user DeezDucks. And as you can see, it gets very fast, very quickly. And yeah, we've taken off quite easily here. Now, similar to in real life, this aircraft in-game is exceptionally loud. Obviously, those contra-rotating propellers giving up some serious noise. Yes, this served from 1953 to 58, so quite late in terms of any propeller-driven aircraft, because we were well into the jet age by then. It had quite a quiet service. It was deployed during the Suez Crisis, which it didn't reflect very well on Britain at that time, and apparently two were shot down by Egyptian anti-aircraft guns, but successfully both those pilots did eject and were recovered. Unfortunately, for the rest of its service, not too great. In the 5 years, well no, not in the 5 years it was a service, as well as its testing, there were over 63 accidents with these planes. 63 accidents, that's a ridiculous margin, resulting in the 39 lost airframes and 13 fatalities. So, not the most successful aircraft in that respect. It didn't do very much, and caused quite a staggering loss of life, considering we didn't get much out of this aircraft in terms of service. But anyway, there is only one surviving airframe, which I think is an S4 variant, similar to this one, which is at the Fleet Air Arm. I didn't actually see it when it was there. It might have been being restored, I'm not sure. But anyway, there is the last surviving Westland Wyvern at the Fleet Air Arm. Obviously, Westland Aircraft Company being synonymous with the area. They're based in Yeovil, and now probably most famous for the Western Lynx helicopter in service with the Air Force as well as the Navy. So yeah, this is the complete oddity, the Westland Wyvern, brought to us by DeezDucks, so thank you very much. Okay, last and by no means least, we have the greatest aircraft, in my opinion, to serve with the Fleet Air Arm, if not even the greatest aircraft to serve with the British in World War II, which is the Fairey Swordfish, recreated brilliantly for us by BogdanX. I'm a big fan of all of his aircraft models, and this is no exception. This is absolutely wonderfully remade, this Swordfish. It is a Mark II, you can tell, because it's carrying rockets as well as a torpedo under there. And I've got to show you a little surprise that torpedo has for us once we're in the air. So, can it take off from the USS Tiny? It doesn't need to go very fast. It is a very small, very light aircraft, and there we go, we've taken off at about 75 miles an hour and we're airborne. And this plane is just wonderful, and its service history is unbelievable. It came into service just before the beginning of World War II, and when it entered service, well, it's a biplane. It's already completely obsolete, but it served nonetheless, and it served fantastically, possibly most famous for its part in chasing down and ultimately sinking the battleship Bismarck. Obviously it didn't deliver the final blow, but it was one of these torpedoes slung under here that hit the Bismarck, damaged its rudder, and left it just spinning in circles in the Atlantic, giving the Royal Navy time to close in and finish the job, which did take a long time. The Bismarck was an absolutely formidable ship, yet somehow couldn't shoot down one of these coming at it. So let's go low. Let's slow down a little and let's launch that torpedo. And that torpedo has a little engine in it, and it moves, and that's great. That is a wonderful little detail that BogdanX has put into this aircraft. The same level of detail that he puts into all of his aircraft recreations. And I'm probably going to crash. Yeah, crash. But what I can show you is just change the camera. There we go. We can just follow its torpedo as it goes to land before we restart. Boom! Wonderful. Just imagine this island was the battleship Bismarck, and you get the idea. So let's restart. So yes, Fairey Swordfish, completely obsolete by the beginning of the Second World War, yet had a very long service. It served throughout the entire war. It was only retired in 1945 when the war ended in Europe, and it had some seriously important engagements under its belt. Obviously the attack on the Bismarck, also had the attack on the Italian fleet at Taranto, which ended up being basically that attack was studied by the Japanese, and they recreated it in their famous attack on Pearl Harbor. Obviously they didn't have swordfishes, so it didn't go as well for them. If they had one, it would have been better. So let's launch my torpedoes. Launched again. We've also got rockets, which obviously it's most well known as a torpedo bomber. It also had a single machine gun. But yeah, that's a Fairey Swordfish, the greatest aircraft in my opinion to serve with the British Fleet Air Arm, and possibly with the British at all. So thank you very much, BogdanX, for a wonderful recreation of a fantastic plane. Well, that's the end of my video today. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and I'll see you next time.